Greetings! Welcome back to PinkOddBird. Today what I'm going to try and quickly show you is how I do a simple, super easy waterfall for your junk journal. I'm not saying it's the 100% right way, but it's just how I do it, and this is going to be a tutorial on how you can do it too. So stay tuned. So in this tutorial, I'll go ahead and show you how to do it with a closure. So in that case, I think even still with the closure, I'm going to go ahead and put it probably on this page. I think that's where I want it. So the first thing that we're going to do is, we need a ruler also. So the first thing you want to do is measure your page. So mine, I believe, this one is 8.5. So standard size page. So the next thing I want to do is, I know that typically with the waterfall you build them so that they can hold 4x6 photographs in portrait or landscape, depending on what orientation you put it in. This is going to be in portrait. So out of this one sheet of paper, I'm going to make 2 waterfall flips. And so I'm going to go ahead and, I believe it's 5.5. Yeah. So it's 8.5 by 5.5. So what I'm going to do is cut my base page down to 5 inches. So I'll be right back. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, now that I've cut it down, I'm going to grab my scoreboard. And I know that my photo, it'll probably be at least 6 inches. So I need to accommodate for those 6 inches. And then I like to leave maybe like 1/4 of an inch so that you get a nice border between here and here when you put the photo down. So what I'll do is go ahead and score this page at, so 6 inches for the photo, 6 1/4 for a border. Let's score it at 6 5/8. So fold your page over. All right, so that's going to be part 1. The next thing that you're going to do is, you don't really have to accommodate for much. The reason why I left a little bit extra on this one is so that I now have a 6 5/8 piece long, so that I can give myself space for the closure, because this is going to be the top flap, so it needs to be a little bit longer. On this one, I'm going to go ahead and score it at 6 1/4 even, and then I have this flap. So we're done with that for now. And what I'm actually going to go ahead and do is cut this piece down just a little, because it doesn't need to be so long. So make sure you leave at least 1/2 inch on your flap, because it needs a way to adhere down. So now we have here and here. Okay, so that's going to be our 2 flip waterfall. So the next thing that I'm going to do is grab my scissors, and I like to trim these flaps just a little in a diagonal, just to make sure that everything lines up nicely. So just a sliver of a trim. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere the top flap down first. So to do that, I'm just going to take my glue, put it around this flap. There's lots of different ways that you can do this really, but this is just something that's fast and easy to show. So I'm going to go ahead and center it. Make sure it's straight. because you don't want a crooked one. And then you can go ahead and burnish it down. I don't normally use glue. I usually use my double-sided tape, but for the sake of the video, this is just a little bit faster. Okay, so the first flap is on. Now we want to go ahead and add the second flap. So what I like to do is give yourself at least a good ½ inch between where this crease is and this crease of the second page. So I'd say maybe something about like that, and you just want to make sure that you have enough of an overlap here to make it an actual waterfall. So you can see I have 1, 2, and of course you can actually add more of these little waterfall pieces. You would just, you know, move this up a little and then flip it up and add another piece here just to give it that trickle effect. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to do 2. So you can get the basis of it and add on from there. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this side down. When I'm gluing the second piece down, I like to close it and make sure that I have it all lined up properly and that it's straight and even. And I'm happy with that. So again, I'm going to burnish. All right, now you've got 1 and 2, but we're not done yet. We still have a few more things to do. Okay, so now what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've cut 2 pieces of my paper out that'll cover the top part of the waterfall. And you don't have to have a piece to cover this, but you can. It's really up to you, whatever your own preference is. For now, we're just going to work on the top parts. I cut them all 1/4 inch shorter than the black page. So these are all cut 1/4 inch shorter than the base page. Now I'm just going to go ahead and attach this one and the one below it to the page. All right, so I've got the 2 top pieces down. So now at this point, if you were to take your 4x6 photographs and add them to the tops of these, you'd have a nice border of the underneath paper. So you've got a nice black border, and then you've got a nice pattern border, and then you'll have your photograph. So if you wanted to leave it at this point, then you would go on to this step, which I will show you right now. What I like to do here, because you can see there's a lot of space and you can see where we've slanted in the back flap. So what I like to do is cover that. So let me show you what I do. So again, here with this space, what I've done is measure the height of this crease to the top of this flap and the length from edge to edge. And then I've cut it all down. I left the edge to edge was 5 inches, so I left that as is. And then this crease to the top of this flap, I cut it a ½ inch shorter. So what I'm going to do is glue this piece down here, and then it gives it a little bit nicer, more cohesive look on your page. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that piece down. I apologize, I didn't cut this piece down a 1/4 inch. I cut it down 1/8 inch smaller than the amount of space this is. So 1/8 inch. All right, so now we've got that piece glued down. All right, so cool. It's starting to look like a waterfall, right? So now I'm going to show you how to do a closure on this, and I will go ahead and get prepared for that so that we can get this closure on. So to do that, what we're going to do is build a pocket here, and that's going to act as the bottom half of our closure, and I'll show you what I mean. So let's grab a piece of, I think we want to grab some more black cardstock. So we actually are going to need one more little piece of black cardstock for our base pocket. So if you have a scrap or something, you can absolutely use that. Or you can use, if you've used a 12 by 12 sheet, you can actually just probably just use this. So maybe that's what I'll do. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see, we'll measure up how much we want our pocket to be. So let's see. From the bottom of the page, you want to make sure you give yourself enough room here to put something in and out of without, you know, struggling to put it in and out. So let's say we want to make it 4 inches from the base, which means we need to give ourselves a 1/4 of an inch, so the actual pocket will be 3 3/4 inches tall. So I'm going to take this piece of paper and cut it 3 3/4 inches tall this way. I'm sorry, you need to accommodate for the flaps on the pocket. So we're actually going to cut it to 4 1/4. 4 1/4 tall. I'm sorry, you guys. This is something that I normally do in my head. So doing it on an actual tutorial is a little bit different. And we know that we need to make it at least close to the 5 inches width. So to give ourselves a little bit of space and make sure that we don't have it overlapping on the outside of the waterfall, let's cut this down to, we need, let's see, 5 inches, and 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch would be 6 inches. So let's go ahead and cut it down to 6 inches and see what we get. Then what you're going to do is score this little piece 1/2 inch on 3 sides. So 1/2 inch, flip it, doesn't matter which way, 1/2 inch, and then flip it so that you're going to make score lines in a U like that. So now we have 3 score lines, and what we're going to do is cut our little corners, miter the edges a little, just like you do when you're making your book cover. And so you should have something that looks like this. So what we're going to do is fold it back, back, and back, and burnish. And then what I also like to do is these top corners, I like to miter those down as well. So you have them like this. Okay, so let's make sure that we have this at the right size to where, yeah, perfect. So as you can see, it's not like sticking out on one side. It's perfectly flush, so you can absolutely just make it flush like that. Give yourself about a 1/4 inch at the bottom. So before we glue this down, what we're going to need to grab is 2 brads and some string or jute, ribbon, whatever it is that you're using. So let's grab that. Okay, so now that we've grabbed 2 brads, brad setter, and some twine or something, the first step is easy. You can measure this if you want. Let's see, we've got 5 inches, and this Tim Holtz ruler has some holes, so that makes it really easy on what you're doing here. So you want to make sure you're looking at the top flap, find the center, which is going to be 2 1/2, and then poke a little hole, or give yourself a, you know, a little bit of a mark so that you can see where you want to poke your hole. So now that we've done that, go ahead and poke the hole through. Then we want to grab some of our jute, twine, whatever it is. And you want to give yourself a reasonable amount. I have about 12 about 21 inches or so. So take part of this jute and stick it through the hole that you just made. Going to be kind of tricky. I like to twist the end to make it kind of a point, and that makes it easier to pull it through. Okay, and then on the other side, give yourself, you know, about an inch. Then we're going to take our brad and also stick it in the same hole. So once we do that, go ahead and set your brad. I like to make sure mine's sideways because we're going to cover this part with paper. You don't have to, but I think I'm going to. Maybe. You don't, like I said, it's up to you, however you want your look to be. All right, so that's part one. Now we're going to take our pocket and we're going to go ahead and put it where it's going to go. Like I said, about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom. So we'll place it just like that. Make sure it's straight. Take our ruler and get that 2.5 hole punch in here. Let me do it this way. 2.5, just depends on where you want it to go. Think about 1/2 inch from the bottom of the actual pocket is fine. So where's 2.5? Right here. So now I have a mark on my pocket for where I want to punch the hole through. So I'm going to go ahead and punch that hole through, and just like that. Now all we're going to do is take our brad and put it through and set this brad. Just like that. And then now we're ready to glue our pocket down. See? And so once you get it down, I like to lift it up a little bit to give yourself some room for the twine to go around it. I guess I cut too much twine, but this is better too much than not enough. See? Just like that. And that will be our closure. So what I'm going to do is glue the pocket down, and I'll be right back. Just to show you what I'm doing here, I'm again lining up the pocket with the line of the waterfall so that I make sure that I get this on here straight, and then I just press it down. Of course, if you didn't want to do the closure, you can absolutely skip all the pieces that I just did with the brad if you don't want to do the closure. And if you don't want to do the pocket, you can also skip the pocket and then just cover this whole piece with another piece of cardstock or decorative paper and make it a photo mat. So you'd get 3 photos in a row. With this way, we're getting a pocket and then 2 photos, or 4 if you want to use front and back. So now what we're going to do is get ready to cover this piece and this piece. So I'm going to grab 2 more pieces of paper that are the same size as these 2 pieces here, and I'll be right back. So I'm just going to put a little bit of tape over the actual twine and the brad to make sure that it sticks down, and I've gone ahead and I've cut my 2 pieces down. And I would like to also say that if you wanted to have these corners rounded or with some other decorative punch, you can do that. You would just first do your base page with the punch, and then before you adhere your decorative pages, you could round those or do decorative punches on those as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get these glued on. Again, you don't have to use this ATG gun, you can use glue. It's all the same. And I'm just gonna give myself again 1/4 of an inch or so around the borders and smack it down. Burnish, 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 burnish. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing on this one. So now that we've done this, you can either leave the top part as decorative paper. Oh gosh, I cut so much string that was unnecessary, but it's okay. I'll save it and use it for something else. Like I said, give yourself a little lift on these to give yourself some space for your ribbon or your twine to go around it. Okay, just like that, and then you can cut it to a reasonable length. And then that's it. So we have one more thing to do, and that's cover this piece. So what I'm going to do is stick with this same paper. All this little piece, this, and what I'm going to use from here is all one piece of 12 by 12 paper, and it's front and back, so it coordinates with each other. So I know that this is 5 inches, 4 7/8. So just like that. It's better. Okay, so now we're ready to glue that piece down. What I was gonna say about this piece when you glue it down is, what I like to do is go on the 3 edges, and I do use glue for this part because it gives you some time to move it around, and then just a little bit here, just like that, and then we're just gonna stick it in here. Just like this. Okay, because then you don't get it all stuck if you make a mistake. And then just burnish it. And to finish it off even more, I think what I would like to do is give it a little border up here. And this is actually a scrap from something, and it's cut already to the perfect size. So let's use this. And that's just going to finish off this look that we have here. Boom, perfect. Perfecto. Okay. Voila. And that's it. We have a waterfall with the closure. So when you get this in your book, flipping through, then you get to the waterfall, and when you flip it, it's not gonna flap open. So, and it's perfectly fine. You don't have to have a closure. Like I typically sometimes don't use closures, but I just thought I would show it in this one. It's absolutely perfectly functional, and it's not, because when you do put your pictures in, say you only put pictures here, the weight of the picture is going to keep the flaps down anyway. So I mean, I don't have the closure on. I mean, give it a little tuck and you can still flip the page. It's no big deal. So that's it, gang. I know I was probably so confusing because I'm just a in my head kind of person. But now you've got your waterfall, and then a pocket. And you can also punch a little half moon here if you want. It's up to you. So that's how you do a junk journal waterfall. So thank you guys all for watching. I hope you were able to find this useful and not terribly confusing. And if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments below. I'll totally answer. And other than that, thanks again. And until next time, toodaloo.